Welcome to the CPTM Smart Partners Hub in December 2017. And we already, as we know, had first snow, although Smart Partners from Sweden said what is snow here in London near the hub is not recognized as snow in Sweden. And probably he will be, Oliver, explaining to us what is snow, really. And what is a Nordic secret of snow. I'm just showing off.
Yeah.
And I explain to you why, Oliver. But welcome to the Smart Partners Hub. Particularly welcome to Moses Zungu, the head of National Smart Partnership Hub in Swaziland. And obviously to Oliver Oram, just before everybody is closing for holidays for the end of the year. Now, we said that we will kind of use the last 3 weeks of December to invite as an invitation to everybody to the Open Library, the Open Hub, to reflect both on the kind of new insights that have come about, but also to reflect on signals or alerts on what might come next year or even today. And one of the things that Moses shared with us right at the beginning with me was that he'd just been at a blockchain cryptocurrency meeting in Swaziland, and he was explaining how and what was discussed there. And I said, well, it would be good if Oliver Oram from digital industry in our group and this year, being very, very active, would be around so that we share some immediate reactions on what you just heard. So I welcome Moses and welcome Oliver. And I suppose there are 2 things that we can deal with today, among many others. One is obviously this fever of blockchain, of Bitcoin, that is everybody's talking about, newspaper, all the journals, and all the tweets and everything else, and including in Swaziland, in the national context, the kind of business people who are briefing Smart Partners Swazis about, or tempting them to use DAS money rather than the hard paper currency that usually money that usually we are looking into. And Moses, what can you immediately say? What was it that you heard, or how the briefing came about? So it was in Swaziland the other day. Yeah, because this is happening everywhere. It's happening in Tanzania. It's happening everywhere.
It's a company that's actually pushing a type of cryptocurrency called DAS coin.
Okay.
They invited the public to come to a presentation where they're presenting on cryptocurrency and actually giving the people a view of how the whole thing is supposed to be working in terms of not losing value, and therefore much safer to invest in. And they actually told the people,
so not exposed to currency.
Yeah, fluctuations.
Fluctuations
It's protected from currency fluctuations, and in fact, it's appreciating all the time instead of going down. And that DAS coin is actually better than Bitcoin in a lot of areas. That it's able to actually conduct the transactions in a very short period of time, as opposed to Bitcoin. Those were the advantages of DAS coin over Bitcoin. But people were then advised to to make a decision whether to join and buy.
How would they
bonds.
join? How would a Swazi join? And what would they join? They would just buy Dascoin.
You
and
buy
they
bonds.
They buy bonds with
Certain amount of money
currency
starting
that you
from
have.
€100 up to 5,000 euros.
So they're addressing it as like a security, in
Yes,
essence, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So probably the same thing actually, Moses, but in different contexts, is taking place in Namibia, in Malaysia, we heard the other day in Uganda. So it might be different business people, different companies who are kind of having
Pushing different types
pushing
of
different types
cryptocurrencies.
of cryptocurrencies. But obviously in Swaziland we have the governor, Majosi Sitole, who's probably very much kind of aware and will react if there is anything which is which needs to be for the population to be briefed.
I think.
But Oliver, what's your reaction
Well,
generally, not specifically about?
So generally, not one currency on this planet is unstable. There are no free lunches when it comes to stability of any national currency or digital currency. So that immediately sort of rings alarm bells for me that it's a currency that can never, will always be stable. I believe that you cannot have anything that can be completely stable in this planet. And, a good example of this is that people will flee from anything that they feel is going to decrease in value. And I don't think the dollar, the British pound, the Swedish krona can claim that it will ever be completely 100% stable. Any crisis could affect something, and where if humans are involved, this can happen at any moment. So
because the definition of currency, whatever
exactly,
digital otherwise is.
There's always fluctuation in the currency. I mean, if you have a coin, if somebody owns 90% of this DAS coin and sells it on the market one day, of course it's going to drop if they flee the market. So this, to make a claim that one currency is better than another and that it is completely stable and not volatile, that immediately rings alarm bells for me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone, even those people in who like and use Bitcoin a lot, they know it's volatile and it's not completely stable. But this is the risk they choose to take. But I don't think they don't go out and say that this is the most stable currency on the planet. They say, well, this is Bitcoin, and the reason why we like it is it's a distributed currency with no central control. And that's why we saw what we saw with Zimbabwe, and unfortunately, at that point in time.
What actually happened in Zimbabwe? Because again, there are news, and there were news because of the changes that they went through, very successful. But what actually happened there?
Well, I mean, luckily, we didn't know that it was going to go very smoothly in the beginning, but it did go smoothly. But in the initial hours when President
when things happened,
the local population probably thought, what's going to happen to this Zimbabwe dollar? Is it going to depreciate rapidly? And where do I go for an alternative investment? So they looked for alternative investments. And at that time, Bitcoin was probably the easiest one to grab. And therefore, the exchanges selling Bitcoin could say there's very high demand at the moment. The price shot up very quickly. So people used Bitcoin in this case as a safe haven.
What would the central bank would have done in Zimbabwe?
There's not a lot they can do if there's no. They can't stop their people thinking, because of the central bank. Unfortunately, in this circumstance, it's under the control of its government, and there was a vacuum.
Not usually. There was a vacuum at the time.
So this could happen in any country in the world.
That's it. Yes.
So
if we were to be there, we would be tempted because of the uncertainty.
Yeah, of course. I mean, think about the Weimar Republic.
Yes, buying gold or buying.
When the repatriations, the Germans were told they have to pay back all of this money, and then it was impossible to pay this debt back after the First World War. So they just printed money, and if you keep on printing money, it becomes worthless.
So here is not printing money, but it is.
Well, a
temptation for cryptocurrency?
Well, the value that a lot of people see in Bitcoin is that it halves itself every year. So it's not like some of these other digital currencies. What is their model? And I think to try and say that you've got a new Bitcoin that's better than Bitcoin is a little bit. I don't agree with it. I mean,
Bitcoin is Bitcoin.
Bitcoin is Bitcoin, yeah.
That's what.
And then there are some clever people out there that are looking to create digital bonds and digital currencies, but they're doing it in a very clever way and they're doing it in a proper way. So I believe that we can have standards around this. We can have good compliance, and we can.
You said a code. A code of.
A code of conduct, yeah. There can be a code of conduct. There can be good standards. I believe that the authorities, such as central banks, can actually say, look, you know, we don't like what you're doing, and if you sell to our citizens, we're going to shut down your websites and everything like this. And if you do it again, if you sell to our citizens again, and if we catch you, then if it's some sort of Ponzi scheme, we'll come after you.
This is a major kind of reaction that probably generic that can be given to any other situations.
Sure, we have international treaties, don't we, Moses? So I think
Yeah.
under international treaties we have property rights, and if somebody's going around stealing from our citizens, and you know, I don't think there's many governments in the world that are going to protect these people if they find out what they're doing. You know, if you sell a security to an American retail, what we say a retail buyer, American citizen who is not a accredited investor, does not understand the risks of what you're doing, the American securities will come after you.
Correct.
And this is the same, I believe, if you sell this coin in any country in the world. I mean, I wouldn't, I think over 90% of these token offerings.
Is there a kind of another landscape? Is there a watch, as you were saying, we should probably initiate in the new year, 2018? Is there a kind of monitoring of new
I believe that
cryptocurrencies?
CPTM can go out to its digital paths and say, you know, where are the best places to watch what's going on here?
Correct.
How do we educate our citizens better on this? And I think the smart partners can come together as a group and actually maybe create some sort of system here where there is a depository for information and knowledge around this.
That is what probably is coming out from the whole year this year, because you've been together with Object Tech.
That's right, yeah.
Peter, at the invitation of Governor of the Bank of Tanzania as a follow-up on the think tanking.
Yes.
We've been invited as CBTM to brief the senior professionals in the bank.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed the
and
trip.
you've done
actually.
that.
Yeah.
And the question was probably you could. What were the questions they had?
Well, how do we regulate cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin?
Right. That's
And it's extremely hard to regulate something. I mean, it's extremely hard to regulate physical gold or physical dollars, because then you have to catch the person coming in the country who has excess gold and hasn't declared it, or in fact dollars. So the only difference with Bitcoin is it just makes it a lot easier to hide, in the sense that it's not physical.
Yes,
You can
that's
have it on your mobile phone. I don't believe it's entirely anonymous. That's another conversation we can have.
Yes.
But what I do think the central banks can do is understand the challenges better and offer oversight.
But when we say central banks, we mean the professionals working in the central bank.
Yeah, absolutely.
The senior managers and the governor and so on.
They have all the tools.
We'll probably try to re-emphasize to all the central bank governors that we are prepared to continue to do what we offered to the Bank of Tanzania this year. Yeah, I've just been discussing with Professor Benon Dulo, who is going to send to us what we are supposed to do from now on, before the end of the year in Tanzania. Yeah, and before he retires. He'll retire in the beginning of January. So, but going back to blockchain to finish with this issue, there was a preoccupation on the blockchain, and in the last 2 weeks, yesterday, in the newspapers, on everywhere else, about everybody being afraid of the bubble of the produced by the cryptocurrency.
Yeah, of course. We live in it's
International.
.com.
So is it anything special that is taking place right now, beginning of December, early December?
Well, I
Or
think
is it something to be watched more than before? Is it a fear of a bubble? I mean, we were, the other day, Phil Godsafe, our smart partner, and they invited us to the House of Lords to this launch of the report of the distributed ledger technology, which was a report put together for public good,
Yeah, that's,
which was a very, it was promoting the understanding of distributed ledger technologies and the applications in various, not just fintech. And what they were eventually discussing about was just this bubble.
yeah, and
Lord Holmes was saying we're smelling a tulip bubble.
Yeah, I mean, there's a huge bubble here, but what we
There's
see.
something special happening now.
Well, I think a lot of people are jumping in on a hype. You know, I always get a bit worried when I hear somebody call themselves a blockchain expert or a cryptocurrency expert, and I just don't. You know, they become instant experts overnight, and that for me, I don't generally go around and call myself an expert. I like to be knowledgeable, but no, I'm not going to go around and sell that there's experts in the areas of ICOs. I would probably run a mile if
I
somebody
suppose
said
it's
that.
a blockchain technology where one might.
Well, if you
say,
understand
I
process,
have
it's not so much
Yeah.
the technology. Blockchain is a
process.
byproduct of a process.
Yes.
So what are we
Yeah.
trying to accomplish with the blockchain?
Yeah.
And indeed, which blockchain technology are we using? Because the blockchain is being used to describe so many different technologies at the moment. And this is kind of a problem too. But unfortunately the press and the journalists who aren't very technology savvy are feeding the fire, right, Moses? Because they're not giving you accurate information. They're just saying blockchain and covering too many different types of technology.
Yes, like
Reports
even
like this is very good.
They are very, very useful
Yeah.
because they focus mainly on saying health insurance, food standards.
Yeah, we just came out. So
trade and
So this week we came out in Sweden in Kairos Futures report about food safety, and we're in there with IBM and another
maybe
and a
we'll
couple
send
other.
it to
I will
Smart
send it to you,
Partners.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I believe that the digitization of commodities is
Yeah.
a good case, and you know, we've seen a lot of scandals actually where commodities, especially in Africa, have been misappropriated, and if we can have a better digital supply chain there and command of where these commodities are and who's got them.
I don't know if this beautiful candle, Swazi candle, that we've been brought in by Moses from Swaziland, called a hub, if this is something which could sell even better than many other candles that with Bitcoin. If I were to buy it with a digital currency, how would you value it?
The value
Because
is
you're
always
talking
yours.
about the standard of
Well,
it.
it's not so much. So
Another
the currency
standard.
the currency is just a mechanism to buy. It's
Okay.
always
Yeah, you
So-
decide on the value.
yeah.
And then
Okay.
you
And
put
then
in-
it will be whatever it is.
Yes.
Like anything, like knowledge, we always decide what we're worth.
No, that's a bit too meta. No. The traceability of this candle, that it is coming from Swaziland as different from somewhere else, that's something you were discussing in relation to something quite different, that is food,
Well,
coffee,
we do
tea,
commodities,
oil,
yeah,
whatever,
metal.
commodities as a whole, metals. Yeah.
So one interesting.
But these are very clearly Swazi candles.
Yeah.
You haven't been to Swaziland yet.
Okay, no.
So they have to be traced as Swazi candles. It's like the Cypriot halloumi. You have to trace the halloumi Cypriot. That's by the way of food standards.
Yes.
Yeah,
and so
then
on.
DLTs will be very useful to do that.
Well, that's why we started in wine.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's why
many years
you
ago.
had
Yeah.
the wine. That's a good example. Okay, Oliver, you said you had some particular thoughts you wanted to tell us. Is it different from just for the end of the year in relation to blockchain DLTs and everything you've been involved this year?
Sure, I think this year's been quite amazing this year, really. I mean, I think the trip to Tanzania was very interesting, and it was good to get really involved with the Smart Partnership there, and it was a real honour for when Governor Benno.
Are they interacting with you?
Yeah, I mean, we're getting good feedback, and I believe that, what was really good was that
Bernard Daddy and the others.
they
Okay.
when we went there,
Okay.
first of all, it was it's always difficult when you just meet people, but then as the day went on, when we were talking about the distributed ledger and perhaps the different uses of it, it became more interesting when we said maybe we can make a Tanzanite coin or
That was
Serengeti coin.
so. I'm sure we could do something in Swaziland. Yeah.
Cryptocurrency.
Blockchain or distributed ledger. I
Yes.
believe that. I think sharing the knowledge was the most fun for me actually, because of it's always good that people are interested in what you know and what you've got to say. So I enjoyed that trip, but I mean, outside of CPTM, it's been a good year for me because of we've brought on 2 valuable corporate customers. Where we're doing distribution of steel. We're looking at that using distributed ledger to make sure we can check and track and trace the quality. This is all about putting a digital discipline on supply chains.
How much effort did you have to add? Not you
Lots.
personally, but the whole. How do you? Because one thing that everybody's not discussing about, maybe we should discuss in the new year, is about these completely new business models that you are imagining, people like you are developing to cope with these clients who don't quite know what they want, but they trust you.
Yeah, I think you've
So how do you make your money also? How do you
So-
say how much it costs a candle?
exactly. So I mean,
So-
I always
different business models
I think
than conventional.
you have to go in and look at the process first. You have to understand what people's process is, what business they're in, or why you're talking to them, and it's for them. They have to understand you when you leave the meeting. They have to say, actually, they've understood. I don't think there's value in saying, look, here's a proposal, spend all of this money, and we'll show you what blockchain is. I think first you have to help them understand their process and why
Or
they.
buy my digital currency
Yeah.
because you trust me, and it's a currency of trust.
Well,
I mean, everybody's using this issue of trust.
Well, I think trust
By
is
the
an
way,
overused
blockchain.
word in this at the moment.
Yeah.
I think they can reduce the cost
Yes.
of trust, but that's a really another conversation.
Okay.
But
Oh, yeah.
I think that trust is being overused in some ways,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
yeah, there might be some damage there if it carries on like that.
Okay. Moses, what do you think kind of could we have from the Smart Partnership Hub kind of initiative in the new year? It cannot be too late. It has to be very, very early of a initiation of a briefing with the engagement of the central bank, obviously, the governor in particularly, because otherwise one might miss an opportunity if there are business people who come and propose various digital currencies, but they need to be aware and they need to know where they go to find out. So
Yeah,
they
in
could
my
come to
view,
the hub.
it is imperative that we put up some briefing of some sort. We are not saying people should not go into Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies. We just have to provide information around this issue of cryptocurrencies because it's a topical issue nowadays, and people have to be at least well informed about how.
What
to
is
deal
the main
with
currency
this
you're using, if you tell? We are using in Swaziland.
We use our hard currency Lilang in Swaziland, but cryptocurrency
pegged to
is
rand?
pegged to the rand and on a one-to-one rate with the South African rand, as our counterparts in Lesotho are also using the Maluti, and which is also on a one-to-one pegging with the rand. Yeah. So. Yeah, the issue is people have to be educated on cryptocurrencies and get the right information so that they can make their own independent decisions on when to invest in cryptocurrency and which cryptocurrencies are safer to invest in. They should be able to do some background check on the people who are actually presenting the cryptocurrencies and looking at the methodologies as well of how to acquire these cryptocurrencies, because in some cases it does appear like it's a chain that you have to go through to actually acquire a cryptocurrency instead of a straightforward situation where you just acquire these and you have them.
Yes.
Right? Somebody else has to do something else, and then you get something when somebody else has done this, and it becomes very.
Is it traceable? Because you don't quite know the whole process, as he says.
Yeah, I think it's got to. I completely agree with you. There's got to be a straightforward, standard process about this, and it has to be secure and safe. I would say though that when it comes to cryptocurrencies, we can't give investment advice. I think this is always up to the individual, and I think it was similar to when the Chinese stock markets opened up, and the average person on the street was putting all of their money into stocks, and they didn't even know what this was. They thought that they would always have that money back invested, and when the stocks all went down in certain companies, they were very shocked that they had lost all of their savings. And that's just a stock market, so you can see what could happen with cryptocurrency.
But beyond fintech and cryptocurrency, there are a number of other things under fintech. Beyond the financial sector, I suppose one is to explore the trade and all the other things that we mentioned this year.
Yes.
Trade, health,
Provenance,
taxation,
supply chain,
insurance, and there is where education. There is where probably next year. Our next year is kind of after 1st of January 2018. We should plan to get very quickly into different sectors and see what the distributed ledger technology's impact could make. Okay, well, there are many other things that we would want to talk about in relation to the Smart Partnership Hub in Swaziland, which will do so. There is, you said, the budget right now in Swaziland, and you need to put forward a number of proposals for the next year for the hub, and including probably some of the things we discussed now about a series of briefings for the population at large. Yeah? Okay, and thank you very much for entertaining the Smart Partnership Hub from Lesotho, Silas, and we're grateful to him to come to Swaziland, and probably he briefed you about the AGM and the think tanking here. So
he did, yes.
Here is where interactions are taking place, and I understand Barry from Seychelles got in touch with you, and here we are.
Yeah,
that's what Smart Partnership is all about.
It's great.
So thank you very much for coming.
Thanks,
right at the end of the year. Thank you for all the year, all the inputs, and thank you very much for the candle.
You're welcome.
And we'll all enjoy it.